My name is Peggy McMullen, and I was 29 years old when I finally learned the difference between loving someone and carrying them. I didn't learn it during some dramatic blow-up or in a moment of cinematic heartbreak. No, it started quietly, softly. The kind of shift you only recognize in hindsight, like the moment a hairline crack appears in glass. Invisible at first, until suddenly the whole thing shatters. It began the day my boyfriend Brian Hale moved into my apartment. Not officially, not permanently. Just for a few weeks, he said. His lease ended unexpectedly. His roommate moved out, and he needed time to figure things out. I told him he could stay with me until he found a new place. A kind gesture, a practical one. A decision that would eventually unravel almost everything. Those first few weeks were warm, simple. I'd come home from my job at the design firm to the sound of Brian humming in the kitchen or watching videos on the couch. He'd flash that lopsided grin of his, the one that made strangers think he was charming, and made me think he was magnetic. He brought a kind of whirlwind energy into my life, unstructured, chaotic, spontaneous. It felt refreshing at first. I'm the kind of woman who keeps color-coded calendars, grocery lists taped inside cabinets, and 3 different alarms for one meeting. Brian, meanwhile, could wake up with no plan and still float through the day as if the universe owed him serendipity. Opposites attract, they say. At the beginning, I believed that. I grounded him. He pulled me out of my rigidity. It sounded perfect in theory. And for a while, it felt like it was. Until it didn't. 8 months passed. Not a few weeks. 8 full months of his things filling my drawers, his laundry piling in my hamper, his shoes cluttering the entryway, but never once contributing to rent or bills. At first, I didn't mind. He was between jobs, or so he said. But his job search looked a lot like sitting cross-legged on the couch in my hoodie, scrolling endlessly on his phone while I cooked dinner. Marketing roles take time, he'd say, whenever I asked how his applications were going. Maybe. Probably. But he definitely had time for other things. Brunch with a friend from the gym, late-night drinks with someone visiting from out of town, long afternoons running errands without ever bringing any actual groceries home. Still, I tried to be supportive, patient, mature. Or maybe I was just afraid to admit that something was changing, and not for the better. The first true crack appeared on a normal Wednesday night. We were curled on the couch, watching a movie. Halfway through, Brian's phone buzzed twice. He grabbed it so fast he nearly spilled his drink. I caught a glimpse of the notification before he tilted the screen away. A dating app. At first, I thought maybe my eyes had tricked me. Maybe it was just a flash from the movie reflecting on his screen. But the look on his face, startled, defensive, almost guilty, told me otherwise. What was that, I asked. He laughed, shook his head. Oh my God, Peggy, it's not what you think. Really, I said quietly, because it looked exactly like what I think. It's just a stupid app. I don't even use it. Seriously, he smirked, like I was the one being dramatic. I like seeing what's out there. It's harmless. You can't expect me to delete everything just because we live together. There it was, the first time he used that tone on me. Mocking. Superior, dismissive, a tone he would return to again and again. I felt something sting inside me, but I swallowed it. I told myself Brian was just being immature, not malicious, that he would eventually realize how disrespectful that was, that he would grow out of this phase. But the truth is, he already understood exactly what he was doing, and he didn't care. After that night, something shifted. Brian seemed more attached to his phone than to me. He spent hours smiling down at his screen, tilting it away whenever I walked by. He'd leave dressed up for friend meetups without specifying who these friends were. He'd come home late smelling like cologne that wasn't his. When I asked simple questions, who are you meeting? Or what time will you be home? He sighed dramatically, as if I were demanding the world from him. Peggy, you're being clingy. I can't breathe when you're like this. I asked where you're going, I said calmly. Not tracking you. Same difference, he muttered, grabbing his keys. No matter what I said, the conversation always twisted until I ended up apologizing just to stop the argument. And each time I apologized, Brian grew bolder. One night we went to a dinner party at a friend's place. Someone brought a bottle of wine. Nothing fancy, but thoughtful. Brian leaned in close and whispered, "Please don't tell them that's from you. It's cheap. I'll pretend it's mine." I stared at him. "You're kidding." "Just trust me," he said, giving me a tight, embarrassed smile. Trust him. To protect his image at the cost of mine. That was the moment I realized Brian wasn't ashamed of the wine. He was ashamed of me. When we got home and I brought it up, he didn't apologize. Instead, he shrugged. You take everything so personally. Not everything's an attack. Then he added, almost amused, honestly, you'd be less uptight if you had options too. Options, I repeated. He raised an eyebrow. Yeah. You can't expect me to delete my dating apps. I need options. It's not like we're married. He said it casually, like he was reading a grocery list. I didn't argue. I just nodded, pretending I wasn't unraveling inside. But that word options lodged itself in my mind like a thorn. It became the moment everything started sliding into place. The moment I stopped viewing our relationship as a partnership and began seeing it for what it truly was. I wasn't his girlfriend. I was a placeholder. Someone to live with, someone to rely on, someone to anchor him until something better came along. Placeholders don't beg to be kept. They step aside. But I wasn't ready to step aside yet, not until I saw the truth, without excuse, without hope, without denial. And the truth was coming. It was coming faster than I realized. It would shatter everything. The days after Brian's I need options comment felt like walking through thick fog, a fog he created, and one I kept pretending wasn't suffocating me. I still woke up, showered, made breakfast, and went to work. I still came home at 6, hung my coat, asked how his day was. I still played the role of the calm, understanding girlfriend. But something inside me had shifted, even if I didn't want to admit it yet. I started watching more carefully, not snooping, not spying, just seeing him for who he was instead of who I kept hoping he would be. And the more clearly I looked, the more the truth revealed itself. Brian had developed a new habit, angling his phone away from me the instant I entered a room, not subtly aggressively, like a reflex. Sometimes he'd even hunch over it, shoulders tightened, thumbs moving fast. Whenever I glanced his way, he'd lock the screen and say, seriously, Peggy, can't I have any privacy? Privacy wasn't the problem. Secrets were. A week later, he walked out of the bedroom dressed in a crisp button-down shirt and cologne, strong enough to fill the hallway. It was 10:30 in the morning. I was heading out the door for work. You look nice, I said. Big interview today. He didn't look up from his phone. Just brunch. With who? That's when he finally met my eyes, not fondly, not lovingly, but with thin, exhausted irritation. Why do you need to know everything? Because you live here, I said gently. He groaned, like I had just asked him to donate a kidney. Peggy, I'm not doing this. You're acting jealous again. It's not attractive. Jealous. He kept using that word, throwing it like a dart. But jealousy wasn't the issue. Disrespect was. Before I could reply, he grabbed his keys and muttered, I miss when you were chill. You used to be fun before you turned into this. Then he walked out. The door didn't slam. It clicked softly, somehow louder than any slam could have been. That evening, he returned late, barely said hello, kicked off his shoes, and went straight to the couch, laughing at something on his phone. I walked past him, and he angled the screen away, again smirking. The message was clear. He wasn't afraid of me leaving. He was confident I wouldn't. And for the first time, I realized he wasn't wrong. Not yet. I was still holding on to hope that the Brian I first fell for was buried somewhere underneath the man sitting on my couch. But the deeper I looked, the more obvious it became that he wasn't buried. He was gone. Or maybe he was never there at all. The next week, my friend Lila hosted a small dinner party at her apartment. Brian came with me, reluctantly complaining during the entire drive that he was in no mood for socializing. Once we arrived, the atmosphere was warm and casual. Lila had dim lights, soft jazz playing, and a pretty charcuterie board she'd spent hours arranging. When one of our friends presented a bottle of wine as a gift, Brian leaned toward me and whispered, "Please don't tell them that the gift bottle is from you. It's cheap. I'll pretend it's mine." I stared at him stunned. "You're embarrassed by it," I whispered. He gave me a tight, almost condescending smile. "Just trust me, okay? People judge." People judge. He wasn't embarrassed by the wine. He was embarrassed by me. That realization sat in my throat like a stone. At dinner, he performed loud jokes, flashy stories, acting like the charismatic guy he always claimed to be. I watched him from across the table and realized something I hadn't admitted until that moment. Brian treated strangers better than he treated me. When we got home, I tried to bring up the wine comment. He didn't apologize. Instead, he scoffed. "You take everything so personally, Peggy. Not everything's an attack." I opened my mouth to answer, but he kept talking. "Honestly, if you had options too, maybe you wouldn't be so emotional about stuff like this." There it was again. Options. He said it so casually, so confidently, like it was normal to keep one foot out the door while living in someone's home. I didn't fight him. I didn't cry. I didn't even raise my voice. I just nodded slowly and said, "Okay." But inside, something quietly broke. After that night, Brian got comfortable. Too comfortable. He'd swipe on dating apps openly on the couch screen, tilted away, smirking at messages he clearly wasn't sending to friends. He'd get dressed nicely for brunch or drinks without explaining who he was meeting. He'd come home smelling like a cologne I didn't own, humming to himself, like he had a secret he enjoyed keeping. Every time I asked a basic question, "Who are you meeting? Will you be home for dinner?" I got the same script. "You're being clingy. You're paranoid. You're controlling. You're acting like my mom." Until one night he said it with a sharpness that left me cold. "If you don't trust me, maybe we shouldn't live together." He said it like a threat, like a line he'd rehearsed, like he expected me to crumble. And every time I backed off, because I didn't want to fight, because I thought being calm meant being mature, because I believed love meant patience. But really, it meant he knew I wouldn't do anything. He counted on it. He depended on it. He weaponized it. I didn't see that then, but I would soon. Very soon. Because the fog was clearing, and the truth was about to become impossible to ignore. The Friday everything snapped started out perfectly ordinary, which is how the worst revelations tend to arrive. Quietly, without warning. The kind of day you never realize is life-changing until you're standing inside the wreckage of who you used to be. Brian thought I'd be working late. I usually did on Fridays, but a client canceled last minute, so I left the office early. I remember thinking how nice it would be to surprise him, maybe cook dinner together, talk like we used to before everything soured. I should have known better. The moment I opened the apartment door, laughter hit me like a wave. Loud, carefree, intimate. Female voices. 2 of them. When I stepped inside, the living room came into view, and so did Brian. He was on the couch, sitting comfortably between 2 women I had never seen before. One of them had her legs tucked under her, leaning into him with an ease that made my stomach twist. The other held a drink, giggling as Brian told some story he'd clearly embellished. And Brian, his arm was stretched along the back of the couch behind the brunette's shoulders, not touching her, not quite, but close. Close enough to tell the truth. The second he noticed me, his smile dropped. Just for a beat. A heartbeat. A flicker of guilt. Then he smoothed it over. "Oh, hey, Peg," he said brightly. Too brightly. "You're home early." Clearly. The brunette shifted, not moving away from him. The blonde stared awkward, but not ashamed, as if I was the intruder in my own home. "This is just a hangout," Brian added quickly. "Relax." Relax. The word scratched something deep inside me. "Just 3 friends hanging out," I murmured, glancing around the room. "In my apartment. While I pay for everything." The brunette raised an eyebrow, amused. "You the landlord or something?" I looked straight at her. "Yes," I said softly. "And rent's overdue." Her smirk dropped. Brian shot up from the couch. Irritation replacing charm. "God, Peggy. You're being dramatic. It's not that deep." "You didn't tell me you were having people over," I said. "That actually is deep." "You're acting insecure," he snapped. "This is exactly why I keep saying you need to loosen up." "Loosen up," I repeated, "while you flirt with other women on my couch." The blonde raised her hands. "We didn't know." "It's fine," I interrupted. "You don't need to explain. You can both go." Brian's expression darkened instantly. "You don't get to kick my friends out," he said sharply. "This isn't your house." I let the silence sit for a moment. Then I said clearly, calmly, "Actually, it is." And that shut everyone up. His friends exchanged a quick, uncomfortable glance. Within 30 seconds, they were gathering their bags and heading out. Brian didn't follow them. He just stood there, fuming, arms crossed, jaw clenched, like a teenager caught sneaking out past curfew. The door closed. Silence. "You just embarrassed me," he said finally, voice trembling with anger. "No," I replied. "You did that yourself." That's when the real fight began. He started pacing, running his hands through his hair dramatically. "You're suffocating me, Peggy. You don't trust me. You monitor everything I do." I asked who was in my apartment, I said. "That isn't monitoring. That's basic respect. You're always twisting things, and you're always hiding things," I shot back. His eyes flashed with something ugly. Not hurt, not shame. Defiance. "What exactly are you fighting for, Brian?" I asked. He stopped pacing. His chest rose and fell in a shaky breath. Then he said it. The one sentence that destroyed whatever was left. "I'm fighting for the right to have options." Options. Again. Always that word. Cold, clinical, calculated. I felt something sharp and quiet click into place inside me. The kind of click a lock makes when it's finally secured. "You're right," I whispered. Brian blinked. "What?" "You should have them." He froze. Confusion flickered across his face. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said slowly, "I'm done getting in the way." For the first time in months, he looked unsettled. "Peggy, stop," he said. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "No, I'm seeing it clearly." He took a step towards me. Come on, don't be like that. You want options, I said. Go find them. His face drained of color. You have 2 days to move out. The silence that followed felt like the eye of a tornado, eerily calm, moments before everything gives out. You're kicking me out, he finally spat. Over this. Not over this, I said. Over everything that led to this. He laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. Wow. You think you're making some kind of power move? You're just proving you can't handle a real man. I smiled faintly. Then you'll find someone who can. The smirk disappeared. His jaw tightened. He stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door so hard a picture frame rattled on the wall. For the next hour, he paced, yelled into phone calls, tried to find somewhere to stay. I heard his tone shift from confidence to irritation to desperation. I didn't say another word to him. Instead, I sat on the very couch where he had flirted with other women and felt something I hadn't felt in far too long. Peace. Real peace. The kind that settles into your bones and whispers. You finally stopped betraying yourself. By the next morning, the entire apartment felt different. Still. Heavy. Quiet. Brian didn't come out of the bedroom until almost noon. His eyes were red, his voice hoarse. So, that's really it? He asked. You're just done. Yeah, I said. I am. He stared at me for a long moment, searching my face for softness, weakness, anything he could use. He didn't find it. What he found instead was a woman who had finally woken up. And once you wake up, you don't go back to sleep. The morning after everything cracked open felt strangely silent. Not tense, not hostile, just empty. Like the air had been cleared of something toxic I hadn't realized I'd been breathing. Brian didn't emerge from the bedroom until past noon. Normally, he'd stroll out humming, scrolling through his phone, pawing through the fridge like he owned the place. But that morning, he moved slowly, cautiously, like someone stepping into unfamiliar terrain. Like someone who finally understood he'd run out of chances. He stood there in the doorway, eyes red and tired. His voice when he spoke wasn't loud or sharp. It was quiet, small. So, that's really it. You're just done. Yes, I said simply. I am. He blinked, not dramatically, not with the smug irritation he usually wore. Just stunned. Like he genuinely didn't think it could happen. Like a man who'd spent so long leaning on a wall, he never imagined might collapse. Peggy, come on, he tried again. We've had fights before. We can work through this. What exactly would we be working through? I asked. Your disrespect. Your lying. The way you treat me like a backup plan. That's not fair. It's honest. His jaw tightened. You're acting cold. No, I said, voice steady. I'm acting awake. He laughed once, brittle, humorless. So that's it. 8 months together, and you just throw it away. You threw it away, I corrected. I'm just accepting it. He shoved his hands into his pockets, pacing like he needed movement to keep himself from falling apart. This is insane, he muttered. You're overreacting. You always do this. You get emotional. Brian, I interrupted softly. I'm not emotional right now. That should worry you. He stopped pacing. His eyes flicked to mine and he saw it. The stillness, the clarity, the absence of fear. The thing he counted on my hesitation was gone. And without my hesitation, he had no power left. He tried every tactic after that. Anger first. So what? You think you're perfect. You think you didn't screw things up too. I think I stayed loyal, I said. I think I gave you a home. I think I deserve respect. That shut him up. Then came deflection. You're insecure. That's the real problem. No, I said. The real problem is you benefit from me being insecure. He didn't like that answer. Then guilt. I needed attention. Okay, I felt invisible. You got too comfortable. So you use dating apps, I said, while living in my apartment. He flinched. I didn't meet up with anyone, he snapped. You wanted to, I replied. That's enough. Then came the worst one, the softness, the pleading. He stepped closer, voice low, tremoring at the edges. Peggy, please, don't do this. I can change, I swear. I'll delete the apps. I'll stop talking to people. I'll get a job. Just don't make me leave. Why? I asked gently. Because you want me. His silence was answer enough. He wanted the apartment, the comfort, the safety net, the woman who wouldn't leave no matter how badly he behaved. He didn't want me. Not really. And the truth landed on him hard enough to knock the breath from his expression. I'm giving you 2 days, I repeated. Not to punish you. To give you time to figure out your next step. He swallowed hard. Where am I even supposed to go? You'll figure it out, I said quietly. You've always managed to find options. That made him look away. Options. The one word he loved using, the one he finally seemed to choke on. I spent the weekend at my friend Lila's place. I needed distance, space, silence, and maybe a door he couldn't slam behind me. Brian called 5 times, then 10, then 20. The voicemails came in waves, each one from a different version of him. Angry Brian, you're ruining everything. After everything I've done for you. I muted him. Defensive Brian, you're twisting things. I never cheated. This is on you. Muted. Broken Brian, Peggy, please. I'm sorry. I don't have anywhere to go. Muted. Performative Brian, fine. Whatever. I don't need this. I'll be gone when you're back. Muted. I didn't respond. Not a word. By Monday morning, when I unlocked the apartment door, it was quiet. Eerily so. His things were mostly gone. The closet was empty. Only a few stray items remained: a mismatched sock, a cheap cologne, a hoodie. He probably forgot he borrowed from an old roommate before borrowing me. There was a note on the counter. You didn't have to do this. I hope you're happy alone. I folded it neatly and dropped it into the trash. The quiet that followed wasn't painful. It was peaceful. A kind of peace I hadn't realized I'd been craving, the peace of no buzzing phone screens, no slammed doors, no accusations wrapped as concern, no walking on eggshells in my own home. My apartment felt bigger, lighter, safer. Mine again. That week felt like recovery, not from heartbreak, but from exhaustion. I didn't cry. I didn't replay our arguments. I didn't long for him. I breathed. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. I cooked meals without waiting for someone to criticize them. I listened to music he said gave him a headache. And every day the fog lifted a little more. Until the moment I realized something life-changing. I didn't miss him. I missed the person I thought he could be. And that person never existed. A week later, he texted, "Hey, can I come by to pick up the rest of my stuff?" I replied once. Monday after 6. He showed up exactly at 6, wearing what I privately called his apology outfit: clean jeans, a soft sweater, hair neatly styled, subtle cologne. His attempt at looking put together, responsible, believable. He stepped inside and paused, looking around the apartment as if it were a museum of a past life. "It feels weird being here again," he murmured. "Then don't stay long." That hit him. I could see it in the way his throat bobbed. "Peggy, look," he said, sitting on the couch, the same couch where he'd flirted with those 2 girls. "I messed up, I know that. I got caught up in stupid things that didn't matter. You didn't deserve it." I folded my arms. "Go on." "I thought I wanted freedom," he said softly. "I just didn't appreciate what I had." "And now that you've lost it," I replied, "it suddenly matters." He winced. "I mean it," he whispered. "Can't we just start over?" "No," I said, "because you didn't think of us when it mattered." He looked like he'd been slapped. "Love dies," I said calmly, "when respect does. And you killed both." His eyes glistened. Not with love, with the sting of losing something he never thought he'd lose. "You're really not going to forgive me." "I already forgave you," I said. "I just didn't keep you." That was the moment he finally understood. That was the moment the last string snapped. He gathered the rest of his things in silence. No pleading, no theatrics, just a quiet, heavy acceptance. Before he walked out, he whispered, "You'll regret this." I offered him the smallest, softest smile. "I doubt it." He left. He didn't come back. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt free. 8 months. That's how long it had been since I watched Brian walk out of my apartment, shoulders hunched, pride-cracked options suddenly gone. 8 months since the last door slam, the last accusation, the last time I'd let someone else dictate the temperature of my own home. It's strange how someone can take up so much space in your mind until one day, without fanfare, they simply don't. They dissolve into background noise, a memory, not a presence. That's what happened with Brian. The texts stopped. The calls faded. His shadow shrank until it no longer reached me. I moved to a new apartment across town, nothing glamorous, but warm, quiet, sunlit. A place for beginnings, not repairs. My mornings became rituals of peace coffee on the balcony, early gym sessions, playlists filled with songs he used to complain about. I didn't feel lonely. I felt unburdened, liberated, and for the first time in a long time, wholly myself. Life didn't magically become perfect, but it became mine again. Work improved. I received a promotion I'd been too mentally drained to pursue before. I traveled. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted from while managing Brian's chaos. And slowly, naturally, without force, someone new entered my life. Not a boyfriend, not a replacement. Just a gentle presence who didn't ask for more than what I offered. We were still getting to know each other, still figuring out if our lives fit, but it was healthy, simple, quiet in all the ways chaos isn't. One day I realized something quietly profound. I no longer replayed the past. I no longer feared repeating it. I understood it. Brian wasn't a heartbreak. He was a lesson. And lessons belong in the past. Then one afternoon, a message from an old mutual friend popped up. "You won't believe this. Brian tried getting back with his ex." I actually laughed. Which one? I asked. The one he used to call toxic, she replied. He messaged her on Instagram, tried to rekindle something, told her he's single and working on himself. She blocked him within minutes. So much for options. A week later, a longer message. He's not doing great. Word got around. People know how he treated you. He burned a lot of bridges. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Not happy, not smug, just unsurprised. That's the thing about people who treat others like placeholders. Eventually, they become placeholders too. Easily replaced, quickly forgotten. Even by the people they thought they'd always impress. 2 months later, I ran into him, of course, by accident. Grocery store parking lot. Late evening. Him carrying a cheap plastic bag of instant noodles and off-brand cereal. His hoodie looked worn, not intentionally distressed, just old. His hair messy. His face drawn in a way I'd never seen before. He froze when he saw me, eyes wide, panic flickering behind them. Hey, he said, voice subdued. How have you been? Good, I answered simply. You? He hesitated, trying to be. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. His posture, his clothes, the dim spark that used to light him up, it all told the story. I lost a lot when I lost you, he murmured finally. I almost felt something tug in my chest. Almost. But compassion isn't the same as regret. And pity isn't love. I hope you're doing better now, I said gently. He looked at me with something like desperation. Can we talk? Just for 5 minutes, I'm not trying to get back together. I just need closure. I met his eyes steadily. You already got closure, I said. You just didn't like the ending. His lips parted as if he wanted to argue or beg or pretend. But nothing came out. Not a word. I stepped around him. He didn't follow. The last time I saw him was at a small housewarming party thrown by our mutual friend Rachel. I didn't even know he'd be there. Neither did he. When I walked in wearing a simple dress hair, curled, holding a bottle of wine, I wasn't embarrassed of. Brian looked like he'd seen a ghost. Not because of how I looked, but because I looked untouched by him. Later, as I was putting on my coat, he approached me. Peggy, can we talk for a second? I nodded. He took a shaky breath. I'm sorry, he said softly, for everything. I was selfish. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I didn't interrupt. He continued, voice cracking. Every guy after you, they made me feel smaller. You were the only person who actually cared about me. I pushed away the one person who made me feel safe. I exhaled slowly. You didn't push me away, Brian, I said. You threw me out. There's a difference. He winced hard. His eyes glistened. But I didn't soften. You should regret it, I added. He blinked at me, stunned. He wasn't used to me not cushioning the truth. I keep thinking about what it would be like if we'd tried harder, he whispered. If we fixed things. We did fix things, I said. Just not in the way you wanted. He shut his eyes. So there's really nothing left to say. There's nothing left to fix, I corrected. Some things are done, and that's okay. He looked at me, really looked, and finally understood. Not the way he had during our breakup. Not with anger or grief or desperation. But with recognition. The kind that comes when you finally see the bridge you burned from the other side of the river. I really miss you, he whispered. I smiled softly. I hope you find someone worth missing less. Tears gathered, but I walked away before they could fall. A few weeks later, I heard he'd moved back in with his parents, that the girl he'd briefly seen cheated on him, that he was drifting, lost, resentful, the same cycle, different cast. People say karma isn't real, but it is. Not as punishment, not as revenge, but as reflection. The world has a way of letting you taste the same medicine you serve others. Brian finally learned what it feels like to be replaced. Not everyone survives that lesson gracefully. As for me, I'm doing better than ever. I don't hate him. I don't wish him pain. I don't replay the good moments or dwell on the bad ones. He was a chapter, not the book. He taught me the most important lesson I've ever learned. Love without respect is just self-destruction disguised as devotion. And when I stopped trying to fix his chaos, my life finally stopped being chaotic. So no, I don't want him back. I don't miss him. And I don't wonder what he's